Woo! Yeah! And be free! You look back at the season from hell that the Fever had. None of us expected them to be in this situation. None of us expected them to be winning a very close Game 3.
Caitlin Clark just shocked every single hater and flipped the entire narrative on its head. A Fever insider has confirmed she's now 100% healed from that groin injury, and the timing could not be crazier. The Indiana Fever are officially heading to the WNBA Finals, and Clark herself just announced she's suiting up. Yeah, you heard that right. She's back, and this completely changes the game. The entire league is now on notice, because one of the biggest stars in basketball is returning at the biggest moment. But here's the real question. Should Indiana actually risk playing her?
If she does come back, do you feel like...
I would not want to play the Indiana Fever, especially with a healthy Caitlin. I mean, that building, I got a little taste of it last year. And doing the Final Four, shows when she's on the court, when someone can really change the game in a couple moments like she can be quiet for 10 minutes and then pop, 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 it's 4 threes and the game's out of reach. And I think what the Fever are doing without her, that's going to help them in the future too, knowing that they can win a game when she's not on the court or she's not, at her best. So yeah, that Fever team, I would not want to play them with a healthy Caitlin.
The Indiana Fever were never supposed to be here. Not this season. Not with all the injuries, the youngest roster in the league, and a constant wave of hot takes saying they simply needed more time. Analysts wrote them off before the season even started, labeling them fringe playoff hopefuls at best. And when Caitlin Clark went down with that groin injury, the so-called experts didn't just out Indiana, they buried them. They closed the book on the Fever's season right there. But here's the part nobody saw coming. Indiana never got that memo. Instead of collapsing, they fought through the absolute toughest stretch of their schedule. Aaliyah Boston stepped up and reminded everyone why she was the most dominant college player of her era, controlling the paint like it was hers alone. Kelsey Money Mitchell proved her nickname wasn't hype, drilling clutch shots when games hung by a thread. And Odyssey Sims? She looked like she had been waiting her entire career for this exact playoff run, providing leadership, hustle, and the kind of gritty plays that don't always show up on the box score, but absolutely swing entire series. That resilience, that fire, pushed Indiana all the way to the WNBA Finals, already a historic achievement for such a young squad. But just when the story felt complete, Caitlin Clark dropped an announcement that sent shockwaves through the sports world. She confirmed she is officially suiting up for the finals. Think about how insane that is. The very same media that insisted her season was over now has to backtrack completely. The same haters who smirked when she limped off the court now have to watch her return. Not in a regular season game, not in a tune-up, but on the league's biggest stage. Clark didn't just return. She returned at the exact moment it matters most. And trust me, this is bigger than just a storyline. This is a power shift. Because Clark's presence instantly transforms Indiana into something entirely different. Before her injury, the Fever weren't just winning games, they were rewriting the narrative of the entire league. Record ratings, sold-out arenas, opponents forced to completely change their game plans just to deal with her shooting range, her vision, and her leadership. And now all of that is back. Let's be real, the haters are rattled. For months, they've been chirping about how the league is bigger than Caitlin Clark, how she couldn't handle the physicality, how she wasn't ready for playoff basketball. They celebrated when she went down. But now they're in shock. Because Clark didn't just rehab. She's ready to play in the finals. That's like dropping a live grenade into the living rooms of every rival fanbase. And the timing couldn't be worse for Vegas or New York, the so-called super teams. They were already sweating bullets, watching Indiana bulldoze its way through the playoffs without Clark. And now they have to face a Fever squad that's fearless, battle-tested, and suddenly reloaded with a player who bends the geometry of the court. Because here's the thing, it's not just about Clark's stat line. Even at 80%, her presence changes everything. Defenses can't ignore her. They can't collapse on Boston without leaving her open. They can't overcommit on Mitchell without paying the price. Every single possession turns into a nightmare of impossible choices, and none of those choices are good. And the psychological effect? Brutal. Vegas and New York thought they had dodged the bullet. They thought Caitlin Clark was gone, Out of sight, out of mind. Indiana already proved they didn't need her to reach the finals. And now, they're bringing her back into the mix at the exact moment when every possession matters most. The league just got flipped upside down. And just when Vegas and New York thought they only had to prepare for Boston, Mitchell, and Sims, boom, Caitlin Clark is suddenly back in the mix. That's demoralizing before the ball is even tipped. But here's the kicker. This wasn't luck. This was chess. The Indiana Fever quietly played the long game, and now we're seeing just how brilliant it was. See, when Indiana submitted their playoff roster, they only listed 11 players. The WNBA allows 12. At the time, analysts shrugged it off. Maybe it was an oversight. Maybe they lacked depth. But now, it looks like an absolute masterstroke. That empty slot gave Indiana incredible flexibility. It kept the door open just enough. And now Caitlin Clark is walking right through it. That's not just smart management. That's foresight. That's the front office knowing exactly what they were doing. They never officially ruled Clark out. They let the noise and speculation swirl, then dropped this bombshell at the perfect moment. That's not strategy alone. That's pure showmanship. Now, let's break down how this was even possible. By rule, WNBA playoff rosters lock once the regular season ends. No hardship contracts, no emergency signings. What you submit is what you roll with. But there's a key exception. Players already under contract who are listed as inactive, whether for injury, suspension, or maternity leave, can be reactivated if a roster spot exists. And that's exactly the card Indiana held in its pocket. Clark wasn't a free agent. She was theirs all along, sitting on that inactive list, waiting. And now, the Fever are cashing in on that gamble. And the entire league is on notice.
Walks there to the stanchion.
Now, let's be clear. There are risks here. Nobody is pretending groin injuries are simple. They linger. They flare up. They test conditioning and patience. Indiana knows that. They're absolutely playing with fire by putting Caitlin Clark back on the floor in these finals. But here's the reality. Even a limited Clark still commands insane respect. You could literally put her on one leg and defenders would still guard her 25 feet from the hoop. That's how much gravity she has. That presence alone is worth the gamble. And don't think this decision is just Indiana's. You better believe the league office has fingerprints all over this. Because the WNBA isn't blind. They know exactly what Clark means to their product. Her being in the finals equals eyeballs, revenue, and relevance the league has simply never touched before. This isn't just basketball, it's business. And from a business standpoint, Clark returning is pure gold. Fans feel that too. Social media is already exploding. Clips of Clark just practicing are racking up millions of views. The announcement of her return drew more traction online than half the playoff games combined. Love her or hate her, everyone is talking about Caitlin Clark. And for a league desperate to keep the national conversation alive, that is priceless. But let's not let the league itself completely off the hook here. Remember, coaches have been fined or even allegedly lost jobs simply for praising Clark. That tells you all you need to know about the fragile egos floating around this space. The fact is, Clark is bigger than the WNBA right now, and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. So when she suits up in the finals, it doesn't just highlight her greatness. It exposes the league's insecurities all over again. Still, the Fever don't care about politics. They care about winning. And with Clark back, their ceiling just blasted through the roof. Aaliyah Boston now has more room to dominate inside. Kelsey Mitchell can breathe easier on the perimeter. Odyssey, Sims doesn't have to carry as heavy a load. Even role players like Sophie Cunningham suddenly look more dangerous because defenses simply can't cover everyone at once. That's exactly why opponents are terrified. The Fever already proved they could claw their way to the finals without Clark. And now they're adding back the most impactful player in women's basketball. That isn't just scary, it feels unfair. And the haters? They're officially out of excuses. For months, they've said Clark was overhyped, that she couldn't handle the physicality, that she wasn't ready for the pro stage. They were giddy when she went down. But now, she's back. Not as a cheerleader on the bench. Not limping through garbage minutes. She's suiting up in the finals, second year in the league, completely flipping the entire dynamic of the series. It's almost poetic. The same critics who spent all year downplaying her impact now have to watch her return on the grandest stage possible. And Fever fans? They've got the receipts ready. Every dismissive headline, every hot take, every so-called realistic prediction. They're pulling them out one by one. The real shock here isn't just that Clark is back. It's the timing. Finals basketball isn't about pretty plays or box scores. It's about pressure, poise, and handling the spotlight. And Clark? She's lived in that world since Iowa. Crowds, cameras, expectations. It's just Tuesday for her. When you add that kind of poise into the finals, you're not just adding a shooter or a passer. You're adding pure gravitational pull. Every defender glances at her. Every coach has to build their game plan around her. Every fan has to react to her. That changes the entire environment before she even touches the ball. So think about Vegas and New York for a second. Those so-called super teams just went from confident to paranoid overnight. Look at what it means for Indiana's core. Aaliyah Boston, who's already bullying defenders in the paint, now sees fewer double teams. Kelsey Mitchell finally gets room to operate without being trapped every other trip down the floor. Odyssey Sims, who's been burning energy carrying possessions, can now focus on disrupting and playmaking. That's what Clark's gravity unlocks. And listen, nobody's expecting her to play 35 minutes and drop 40 points. That's not the point. Even if she gives them 18 to 20 minutes, the math changes. Just standing in the corner, she warps how defenses rotate. That's how powerful she is. That's also why her comeback feels like a plot twist scripted for television. Because, in a way, it is. The WNBA is salivating right now. Finals without Clark? A good storyline. Finals with Clark? That's a national event. Networks are already clearing primetime slots. Broadcasters are prepping graphics. And casual fans who haven't watched a single regular season game are tuning in just to see her. And that, my friends, is what burns the haters most. Her return is bigger than them. Their excuses are already loading online. She's overrated. She's not 100%. The Fever will ruin chemistry by forcing her in. But none of that matters when the scoreboard lights up. If Clark makes even a handful of big plays in this finals, the entire conversation flips overnight. The same critics who dismissed her will be scrambling to explain how the overrated player just helped Indiana hang with the league's best. Of course, there's another side. Let's be real. If Clark looks rusty, the critics will pounce. If she tweaks that groin again, the narrative will be brutal. That's why this move takes serious guts. Indiana could have played it safe, sat her, protected her for next year, and no one would have blamed them. But instead, they chose belief over caution. And that decision says everything about how far this franchise has come. Because not long ago, Indiana was the league's punchline. 5 win seasons. Empty.